I just want to know what a Trump supporter does on Sunday, like when you go to church. Like, what do you?
This is my favorite topic of all time. I can talk about it ad nauseum. I've written essays about it ad nauseum. I was raised in a Southern Baptist church for about 20 years because I lived with my grandparents and I'm a people pleaser. So I attended kind of as like a super spy. And I've seen a lot of shit. Okay, I was in the church pre-Trump, during Trump, and post-Trump. Just a little bit post-Trump. And I can tell you that I have seen this like change in that congregation. Mind you, my experiences are only with this church. I have not been to another church. I have not been to a non-denominational church. I've not been anywhere else except for this church. And this church is why. So anyway, I have seen this progression go from people reading the Bible and actually trying to live by it in whatever way that they are internalizing the word. Maybe they're not getting it right or understanding what's being written, because also, side note, this church was a literal church, which I say to mean they didn't think the Bible was a metaphor. I didn't even know that churches think that the Bible is a metaphor until I went to college and I started studying philosophy, and people were like, that's crazy, why would you think it's real? And I was like, I don't know. They said Lot's wife turns into a pillar of salt, and I thought, yeah, she sure did. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, wait, no, she didn't. How'd she do that? Anyway, so they're a literal church. And so I saw them go from like trying and like being earnest, being hypocrites, like being bad people still, but like theologically not off the base, right? And then during Trump and slightly before pre-Trump, it started changing. It started turning, and they stopped making sense. Like, you couldn't see that they're trying to read the Bible and understand the Bible anymore. Now it is purely, we're gonna be persecuted. People fucking hate us. We fucking hate them, essentially. But they say, oh, I love people. No, they don't. No, they hate their neighbor. They hate everybody who is not them. They're in an echo chamber. And they isolate themselves too now from people who are not like them. I've heard many, many sermons from who I refer to as the cult leader pastor. Many, many sermons in which he's essentially been like, if a person you know is doing sin, sorry, I work thirds. If a person you know is sinning, it is up to you as a believer to go to that person by yourself and be like, essentially, hey, you're sinning, you need to stop. And if that doesn't work, you go with two people, you and another. Hey, you're sinning, you need to stop. And if that doesn't work, you go with two more people. Hey, you're sinning, you need to stop. And if that doesn't work, you are supposed to completely cast that person out of your life, totally and completely, because they refuse to go back to Jesus' way. So they isolate themselves. And also with that pastor, I started noticing, as well as with Trump, differences in like things that they're clinging to. Just like a little example, we have never, our church, I don't want to say we, the church never mentioned dancing a single time. Never. And during Trump, with this cult leader pastor, he randomly was preaching about how dancing is sinful and of the devil. And we have a local radio station who every Saturday night has live music. And this one couple who's been married forever has a weekly date night at the radio station. They dance together, married. They went up to the front of this church one night and apologized to the entire congregation and to God for dancing. One sermon, and now the whole group is like, oh, we don't fucking dance. We don't do that shit. Now it's footloose. Anyway, so what do they do when they're in church? They manipulate shit. They take the Bible literally, but also misuse it and skew it. I remember being in church, and the cult leader pastor would always have like the set verses that he was going to use. We would stand up as he reads it aloud, because it's the holy word. the fuck? And he would read it, and I was trying to understand, trying to pay attention, trying to, at the very least, understand what's happening around me so that I can discuss it, argue about it, whatever. And I remember reading and thinking, this is going to be an interesting sermon. Like, what is he going to do with this? And so the points are, like, here that the scripture is making, and then he would, like, go all the way around it, not hit the points, not understand the sentiment at all, and it would be completely left field. And I would always be sitting there, and when he would be like, okay, I'm going to close up, I'm like, did you even start? That wasn't the intro? You're not just warming up? What did you say? Nothing of importance. In fact, you just spewed hate. Oh, one time, I don't remember if Trump was in the office at this point, but it was when they were voting against abortion rights, I think. Because, so you have the leaders of the church, right? And then you have the people, the congregation, who have no, like, power or authority in the church. Well, there's this one guy, there's this one family in this certain church who does hold power. It's like a high school. He's a popular boy. Man. And the preacher asked this man in particular to stand and pray for the entire congregation. And he prayed for people to vote the right way. That's what he said. I pray for people, for America to vote the right way. Do I look like a fucking idiot? I know what you mean, and I did not vote your way. Anyway, so that's what they're doing. They are completely and utterly brainwashed at this point, and it's really sad to see because almost every single member of my family attends that church very faithfully, and very much Trump supporters, and I still live in a small town in the South, so I'm surrounded by these people, and they just totally, completely cannot think for themselves. Oddly enough, I read this philosophical journal article, I think, I don't remember, but it was in college, about the desire to think cognitively, and people who were more aligned in a conservative fashion had less than those who were aligned liberally, of the desire to think critically. But I think I misspoke earlier. It's desire to think critically. But those who were religiously conservative, fully conservative, those people, zero. Like, next to zero desire within themselves to think critically. So they're actually robots walking around with, like, no thoughts, because they're listen, I have so much that I can say on this topic. Like I said, I can talk about this ad nauseum. It's been 8 minutes. I'm so sorry. I have so much to say. They can't think for themselves. The women are taught not to think for themselves. That's why they have this Bible. I think that's why my church took it literally, because they cannot even conceptualize what a metaphor is or how to lay it out. I'm going to stop here because I'm getting heated, but I do have more to say. I literally just scrolled through hundreds of comments to find this one because I saw it before I went to work, before I started work, and I wanted to say something about this. So the cult leader pastor had this thing about what he only referred to as psychotropic drugs, only referred to them that way. And these are things like ADHD meds, antidepressants, things like that. And so he preached about that just as much as he preached about hating gay people. I mean, it was like one of his favorite things to talk about. And one night in particular, on Wednesday nights in the church, my church, they do different age groups, and then you all go separate into the different age groups, and then you do Bible study that way. But the adults stay in the sanctuary, okay? And this particular night, he wanted the youth, and I want to say another group, but I don't remember, maybe the second youngest under us, I don't remember. But anyway, he wanted the youth to go and sit with the adults one Wednesday night, because he had this video, which he was not a fan of. He had this video that he wanted us to see. Caveat, he hated showing videos or watching movies our church had a tradition of, I'm pretty sure it was watching the Passion of the Christ every Easter. Nixed that as soon as he got there. But anyway, so he wants us to watch this video, and it's about psychotropic drugs and their harm and whatever. And then before he presses play, he said, and just to let you guys know, this is a Scientology video, but we're just gonna ignore that. My teenage ass like whips around. I'm looking at everybody around me. I'm looking at the congregation, and no one is batting an eye. And I'm like, did y'all just hear him? He brought a Scientology video in this church. This is the Lord's house. Nobody's saying shit. And I'm so confused. I was upset. At that point, I wasn't even like in it. I was just like baffled. I was like, but they're supposed to be the bad guys. Like they believe in like Jesus is an alien, and you're bringing their propaganda into this church to use it as propaganda for what? This light acting like a god trying to peer. Whatever. Let's move over here. Anyway, that was insane. And not a single person ever mentioned the fact that that was the Scientology video, which was mind-boggling to me. However, this church is still predominantly like a retired group. It's a bunch of old people, and they take antidepressants and stuff because a lot of antidepressants, specifically SNRIs, they're really good for pain, joint pain. My doctor tried to get me to take one for my joint pains. So most of this congregation is taking these medicines, and now they're being told you shouldn't do that. That is the devil. You should not do that. That is altering your brain chemistry, and that is changing who you are, and you cannot worship God like that. Girl, the church spirals, okay? The congregation starts like breaking off into like little like cliques and like whispering. Everybody's whispering, and they're like, well, I can pray about it, but I think God's okay with me taking it. And like weeks pass, right? And this is still happening. And the conversation changes to like, I prayed about it, and God and I had a conversation, and he's chill with it. Like, he wants me to take this medicine. And it was absolutely insane. And I, to this day, think that was the first step that preacher took, the cult leader preacher took, to his downfall. Because that congregation ended up voting his ass out. And he was shocked, too. So, later, let me just tell you the rest of his story, since we're so close to his end. Later, he asked for more money. And he was like, y'all are going to either have to give me more money, or I'm going to have to take a second job, which means I'm going to have to be less of a preacher. But they were like, no, you can't do that. You have to be a preacher full time. You cannot get more money. You're getting plenty of money, especially for the area. And you have to be our full-time preacher. You don't just preach on Sundays and on Wednesdays. Like, you have to go around the community. You got to do this and that and blah, blah, blah. Like, you have responsibilities. And so they voted his ass out. And they tallied up the votes. They called him back in there. And they said, we voted for you to leave. It wasn't unanimous, but it was a heavy majority. And he was shocked. He said, I have never been voted out by this much. We should have raised some red flags. Like, how many times have you been voted out? What are you talking about? Anyway, that's what I wanted to say about the Scientology thing. Still bumfuzzled at the fact that he brought a Scientology video in. A lot of people are bringing up David dancing and Trump dancing. I cannot tell you why dancing is a sin. Like I said, my church never really mentioned it until that one singular time. But, sorry, I'm eating. But, I've seen a lot of people in the comments talking about how Southern Baptists have always believed that dancing is wrong. And I don't remember if that's actually exclusive to Southern Baptist, but anyway, I actually saw one person say that it was sin for men to dance, because that is something for the women, which is bonkers. Never heard that before. So I don't actually know why dancing is seen as a sin, unless there's like some sort of tie between dancing leading to like touching and premarital sex. I don't know. That's the best that I can get. But I'm grasping at straws. I also have literally zero memory of David dancing. Caveat. I have not read the Bible from end to end, because I can't suffer through that. And I'm not going to pretend to know every bit of the Bible. But the parts that I do know, I know. Okay? David dancing, I'm willing to bet this was never preached or mentioned in the church at all, because I have zero memory of it. No clue. Y'all could be lying to me, and I'm going to go now, and I'm going to be like, yeah, David danced. Hell yeah, go David. I don't know. So I'm not an expert. Don't know the Bible from cover to cover. Probably will never. Don't care to. So I don't know this. But it's a good question. Why do they think that dancing is sinful? Now, as far as the Trump thing goes, how do they reconcile Trump dancing at rallies? Well, how do they reconcile Trump giving his microphone a blowjob? I don't know. It is fully a lack of cognition here. And I don't know. I don't know if they're actually seeing, for the most part, I don't know if the masses of them are seeing the rallies, if they're seeing the things that he's doing. I don't know if they believe it. They fall for AI, but that's a good excuse for them to use, like a junk drawer excuse, like, oh, that's AI. Even if it's real. Do you know what I'm getting at? So I don't know. Just a lack of cognition. Just so stuck up his asshole that they don't even know that he's dancing around them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Open to thoughts on it, though. Hey, I just filmed this whole video talking about some points that I wanted to make, and the audio sounded crunchy as hell, so we're doing it again. One, this guy, I think he's a guy. Sorry. Guy, not binary. This person, he called me out. I misspoke. It is the need for cognition. With this information, sorry, you're against my TV. With this information, I've tried to find the article that I quoted, and I can't still. I think I commented this, but I had access through my school at the time to be able to read that, and that's how I found it, was through like my school's library thing. Anyway, however, what I have found, oh, I forgot the point. The point was that now I may not be able to find it. Okay. However, with this information, I have also gone and tried to look again, but I found more articles using this as like telling, which we already know, that like once you get so far to either end of the spectrum of like political, any spectrum, it's basically a circle, right? So far left leaning and far right leaning are basically like processly thinking in the same manners, and they are close-minded. I'm trying to not do that. I'm trying very hard to not do that and to give people the benefit of the doubt where they deserve it. So anyway, there's that. Also, second point, I've had exactly two people so far say that I either had them in the first half or they thought I was going to be a Trump supporter. I want it explicit. I don't support Trump. I'm not conservative. Far from conservative. I'm not religious anymore. I voted for Kamala, an ally, LGBTQ ally. Been working for years to reverse and unlearn the, what is it called? The like habitual racism that I was raised in. So like, I'm not here for the racists. I'm not here for the bigots. And if you are getting in my comments trying to use the Bible to villainize masses of people, I will block you. This is your official warning. If you've already made a comment of the sort, it's staying up as an embarrassment for you. This is what you've done, okay? Moving forward, you're gone. I'm not tolerating that. I don't want to see, well, the Bible says that a man and a woman are biologically compatible. Get fucked. I don't want to see anything like, oh, well, racism's fine. Get fucked. Okay? We're not tolerating that. This is a safe space for everybody, okay? We're sharing our experiences with one another, some very traumatic experiences for people, and we're not doing that, okay? I am the queen here, and if I say your comment goes, your comment fucking goes. And if it is bad enough, I'm gonna call you out on it. I'm gonna call you out, because why not? You guys are giving me all of this attention. Hey, I'm a Leo moon and rising. Love the attention, and I will call you out. Don't do that shit. Anyway, I hope this audio isn't crunchy this time, because I'm posting it no matter what. Oh, I forgot that also in the video that I had to delete because it was crunchy, I said that I was just going to rapid fire respond to some of these comments because I don't really have time to sit down and even think about how I want to do another full thought video, but I'm off the next couple of days. Oh, the essays. Okay. I'm off the next couple of days, so hopefully I can, like, get my thoughts about myself and talk about it some more. Also, the essays, I had some people ask if they could read my philosophical essays. One, they are undergrad essays. Please do not judge me. I'm very, very scared to share my essays so publicly, but I think I got some gems in there, and so I'm gonna try on my couple days off, try to get those together and put those on my portfolio, and then I'll share the link with you guys. I just have to, it's just a matter of finding them and doing that. I'm not gonna edit them. I'm not gonna review them. It's been a long time since I have seen 90% of these essays. Please God, don't judge me. But also, if there's misinformation in there or something that I'm not getting, or like an additive, or if I've made like a racist comment or something, like I don't know, let me know. Call me out on it, because I'm just a girl who was raised in the South, scraping her way through, trying to be a good person. So I'm still learning. I don't think there's anything of the sort in there, but you all will know more than me, because I only know what I know. And I think it was Aristotle who said, like, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, and if you are, get out of that room. Something like that. That's a bastardized version of what he said, but I think he'd be chill. Anyway, okay. Bye. This reminds me of a very heated conversation that we had in feminist theory class. They are NPCs who can vote, because the men are voting blindly, just based, like, they vote down the ballot based on what they think is God's will. Whatever. Neither here nor there. We're not going to touch on that yet. I want to focus on the women aspect, because the women are not actually voting. That commercial that came out during this election cycle, where they were like, nobody knows who you vote for. I heard a lot of discourse. This is an outdated thing. Actually, I think the discourse was in person. I think in my class, people were saying, this is an outdated thing. We don't need to see this. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That is still a problem. This is still a massive problem, that women cannot think for themselves and are not voting for themselves. Women in the church, in conservative groups, maybe not all, you're lucky if you're not one of them. My dinner, I've got to eat that, but I can't stop yapping. Women are not supposed to think for themselves, as we know, in the church, and they ask their patriarch who to vote for. I've heard it multiple times. I hear it every time there's an election. Witnessed my aunt say, who are we voting for sheriff? You can't even make that decision on your own. Anyway, so we had this discussion in feminist theory, because this was after his first reign. It might have been during it. Don't recall. It was during it. And the women in the class, most of them were not from the South, which I think is very important. And literally the only people in the room were me and the professor who could understand why or how or even that women in the church and in religious groups are not voting their own opinions. They're not voting for themselves. Everybody else in the room could only accept that this was happening in cases of abuse. And then even still, they were like, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know who you're voting for. I love that you have this ignorance, okay? Because you're living in this world where women have the autonomy that they just don't have. They do not have. They have the autonomy, but they have the illusion of not having the autonomy. I've had this discussion so many times. Even this past semester in, what was it? Marxism. In my Marxism class. And they were like talking about how they were talking about if women can align themselves with men in order to like take down patriarchy and get through whatever. And I said, I find it hard to align myself with most women on the issue, especially around there. And they were all so shocked. They were like, huh? Mostly men. They were like, I don't understand what you mean. This is what I mean. I mean, in the church and in religious sects, they are SECTS. They are not, women are not taught to think for themselves. They're not allowed to think for themselves, because once they do start thinking for themselves, they run into issues amongst their like religion, because women are smarter. And so they're going to be like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Or they'll be like, hey, I actually don't want to do the dishes tonight. Why can't you? You know what I'm saying? So, I've just completely lost my thoughts. They're all gone. Wait. Fuck. Oh, got it. Okay, so they cannot think for themselves. They're not supposed to think for themselves. How do you expect them to be able to vote for themselves? It was mind-boggling to sit in a room full of women saying that this is not a thing, that this might have been happening when we first got the right to vote and women didn't know who to vote for, and so they would ask their husbands. Absolutely not. This is a thing that happens today. This is a thing that happened over the Trump election. It's going to happen in the new general elections that are coming up in some time. I don't fucking know. This is an ongoing thing. They are NPCs who can vote 100%. And that's a danger to the democracy, because it's allowing one person, the patriarch, to have multiple votes, however many people he has under him who are of voting age, because they're following him. Are we seeing the problem here? I mean, obviously the problem is like in your face. Anyway, correct. Women, side note, hey, I don't know that there's many Southern women here watching me, but if there are, nobody knows who you vote for unless you tell them. Okay, so you can go in, you can vote for whoever you want, and come out and lie to that son of a bitch. And if you need somebody to help you lie, I'm pretty sure all of us will help you do it. Okay, you look at me and you say, hug my little neck. Oh my gosh, hi, it's so nice to see you again. Even if it's a fucking lie, whisper in my ear, lie about who I voted for. I'm gonna be like, oh, she voted for Trump, bro. I saw her, she was wearing a hat, almost got kicked out. But she did, I swear. Yeah. Whatever. This is a great question. Excuse me. Why are people so easily brainwashed? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a professional. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But here's what I think. I think people are so easily brainwashed because of desperation. They're desperate for a sense of community. They're desperate for answers. They're desperate for a comfort. I think a lot of it has to do with comfort, and as far as a religion, or really anything, I guess, that would have an answer for after death. What happens after death? I think that is a really big part, because that is something that gives almost everyone, I'm going to say, discomfort in life, is not knowing what comes next. And so if something has this promise of you're going to die, but then you're going to have this great thing, I think people are immediately going to be like, I believe that. That's what I want. And they want to believe it. And that's why. for the comfort. And desperate for community, especially in times where community was hard to find and you couldn't go online to find it. You know, you can't post on TikTok and find hundreds of thousands of people that want you to talk shit about the Southern Baptist Church. Community was something you had to, like, go out and search for. You had to find it in a church, you know? And so then you just kind of, like, get stuck, I think. I don't know. But also desperate for answers. That was something that kept me, and the death part, that was something that kept me in the church, but it was also the reason I left the church. Because I had all these questions, and Christianity, I've mentioned before, I use the phrase, like, junk drawer excuses, because it's like a junk drawer where you can just throw everything in it. You can attribute everything to these junk drawer excuses. So, like, God doesn't want us to know, or we'll find out when we're in heaven. You know, these are things that I would try to find comfort in and go to sleep at night going, well, I'll find out one day, okay? But then as I started thinking more and realized that wasn't actually bringing me comfort at all, and it was bringing me a lot of anxiety and really disrupting my mental health and even my physical health, I kind of stopped because, hey, that's bullshit. And maybe there's not an answer just because they didn't like the answer, and so they ignored the answer. Like, maybe, and as far as death goes, I don't know what I believe happens after death, and I don't really think that anybody knows, whatever. But, for example, maybe there is nothing after death, and they don't like that answer, and so they ignore that, right? Even if that was proven to be true, or whatever. So I think people are brainwashed for senses that they just, like, can't feel themselves in the world, or they don't know where else to look. Maybe it's the first thing that they found to give them answers, and they found comfort in having this little answer, even if it's a bullshit answer. I don't know. But I think it's comfort. And there's definitely a level of I guess ignorance in the way that maybe you don't even want to think about it. Maybe you're just so caught up in the comfort that it provides you that you want to be ignorant, and you don't want to think, well, this doesn't make sense, or that doesn't make sense, or this isn't adding up, because you want that comfort. So, I don't know, those are my thoughts. This is exactly right. I should not put you on my stove. I'm actively using it. Let me sit you right here, okay? Let me not burn down my phone or apartment. This is exactly right. And I think I have essays that I kind of touch on this a little bit, but that's exactly the point, okay? It is so easy. We know this. We've talked about this. I've heard people say this online. It is easier to brainwash people or make people do what you want when they're uneducated. And I'm gonna jump off a deep end here. So, to get people to control people, there's the word. Sorry, I'm exhausted. To control people, you want them to be uneducated, because then they can't think for themselves, they don't know, and so they're just gonna blindly do what you want, which is what Christianity, I'm sorry, I'm gonna generalize, but Christianity is based on, is blind faith. And, what was I gonna get at? Fuck. Oh, education is like, hey, biggest, most important pillar of democracy, because in order to vote and know what's going on in your government, you have to be educated. And so in order to control people and keep them under your thumb, you gotta take that right away from them. You can't let that happen. And so they don't want us to be educated, so that they can keep controlling us, so that we don't know what's going on, so that we can't find out what's going on. Hey, asterisk, the TikTok ban. All these things, they pile onto each other, and they all go hand in hand. There was something else that I was going to say, but I forgot. Hold on, let me think. Okay, I don't remember what I was going to say. I'll remember it later. But I'll go off the deep end here, and I'll do a little conspiracy theory here. because, so we've got buckle up, try to follow me because my brain is scrambled, okay? We have a declining birth rate. Nope, we have a declining birth rate, okay? Declining birth rate. And we have women refusing to engage with men, marry men, have sex with men, have babies, because either they don't want it, they can't afford it, or they're just completely abstaining because of the state of America currently. Neither here nor there, it doesn't matter to me. The point is that is a threat to our country. And that is directly hitting all of these macho government, America's the best people. Because if you're not having babies to support the growth of my country's gonna die, right? Anyway, so those are the vibes. And so they're banning, trying to completely get rid of abortions. Why? So that you can't get rid of the babies even if you accidentally are impregnated. Why? Birth rate. How else can they ensure that we will have babies? Hey, I hate to be the one to say this, and I really try not to engage in conspiracy theories, but The Handmaid's Tale is right there. And I'm not saying that The Handmaid's Tale is about America, because I'm pretty sure, what's her name, Margaret Atwood, I think, stated that, like, she doesn't want it to be, the book to be compared to America, because these are things that are happening, have happened to many people, many countries, everywhere. However, I see the patterns. I'm seeing 1 + 1 is 2 and shit's adding up, and that frightens me. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm being hyperbolic, but it feels like I'm not, because it goes hand in hand with this. How else, if women can go out and get educated and then get jobs, how are they going to have babies, right? Because they're thinking women aren't having babies not because they don't want them. They don't want them because they'd rather have a job. They'd rather have independence. They've got to have a baby. You know, whatever. I'm going to continue to rant for the entirety of my life about this shit. Oh, I was about to post that, but I thought of something else. So on the whole, like, democracy education thing, yeah. Education is an important pillar of democracy, but this is not just like a knowing what's going on in your government kind of thing. This is a community thing. You have to be able to communicate with everyone, every person in your community, every type of person in your community. There should be no prejudice. You have to know what's going on in their lives, what's going on in your life, what's going on in the community around you and your own, in order to properly vote and take care of your government and your country. Enter racism, enter xenophobia, enter all of Trump. They're dividing us with all of these tactics and driving wedges so that we cannot be a democracy. They're killing us. What the fuck? Anyway, just a little tidbit. Okay, this is the last video that I can make before I have to go to work. I'm cutting it kind of close, but I can't shut up. Okay, so yes, they all use the same Bible. And it's insane how we get such different things, right? I can't get you to stand up. Stay, please. I gotta use my hands to talk or I can't talk. Okay. Anyway, they all use the same Bible and they all get such different things. And also, there are some people, some churches who are you still sliding? Okay. What about now? Okay, good. Anyway, there are people that use the Bible and they use the Old Testament and they live by the Old Testament and its commandments, which is this whole thing. I'm not really talking about that because I feel like that is pretty, like, clean cut and dry. It's a very literal use of the Old Testament, but that's how we get snake holding and such as well. Actually, that's not Old Testament, that's Mark. But anyway, the point is that they take that one thing and then they just, like, build on it, okay? Whatever. There's not too much to say about that because it says it and they're doing it. Is it crazy? Besides the point. However, all of these different denominations, at least that I'm referring to, use the same Bible. and they're using the same scriptures, but they're all villainizing each other and thinking that their denomination is the correct denomination, and that denomination is the one that will, I guess, win in the end. Side note, I saw somebody comment, absolutely hysterical. I saw someone comment that one of their church's mission trips was to go and try to sway another denomination to go to their denomination. Same vibes. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, yeah, they are all using the same Bible, villainizing each other, using the same scripture at each other. Like, imagine one denomination and another denomination utilizing the same Bible, arguing, bickering on a religious matter, and so they're just throwing scripture at one another to be like, well, what about this point? Well, what about this point? And it's the same thing. Y'all are quoting the same things. What? Also, I did not realize until I stopped that to think that the beauty filter's been on. Sorry, this is me. Anywho, yeah, same Bible is crazy. And growing up, I used to say this. Like, I used to be like, but they have our Bible. Like, we believe the same thing. Like, I'm confused. And my grandfather shut it down immediately. And he was basically like, no. And that was that. That's all I was allowed to say about it, because I'm a tiny little woman and I'm thinking too much. I'm using my brain too much. So anyway, I don't fucking know.